Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about 3.1 lines and transversals. If you haven't done so already, click the like button and subscribe. And today we're going to be talking about lines being intersected by a transversal. When this happens, if you notice here, I have a purple and green line that are both being intersected by another line. When that happens, we're going to have a total of 8 different angles. And all of these angles have a specific relationship with each other. So here on the left, we have a few words that we're going to be talking about. Transversal, we're going to define these words. Alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, and corresponding angles. So our goal by the end of today is to be able to identify from a picture what this angle relationship is, how are they related. Just identifying the pair of angles that we're interested in. Let's get right to it. So here the first word we want to talk about is a transversal. The transversal is a very important word. Transversal is this blue line that you see right here. A transversal is defined as a line that intersects at least 2 lines. If it intersects at least 2 lines, it'll create these 8 angles that we're talking about. So a transversal indicates is the line that's being intersecting the other 2 lines. Now the transversal will also tell me a lot of things. Okay? One thing that it will tell us is keywords like same side. We're going to use a transversal as a way to determine if they're on the same side or not. So here I have a transversal, the blue line. Angles that are on the same side of the transversal would be these on the right, 2, 3, 6, and 7, or the ones on the other side, 1, 4, 5, and 8. If we say angles are on the same side, we're talking about same side of the transversal. Okay? If we're saying angles are on the inside, now we're going to be looking at these 2 lines that you see here, line L and line M. When we say that we're talking about the angles inside, we're talking about the angles inside these 2 lines. So these 4 angles here, notice how they're inside the lines. They're between the lines. We call these interior angles or inside angles because the 3, 4, 5, and 6 lie within the lines. Now, alternatively, if we're talking about angles that are on the exterior or on the outside, we're dealing with the other angles, 1 and 2, and 7 and 8, because those angles are on the outside of the 2 lines. So these are the keywords that we want to be able to identify in a transversal. Same side, inside, and outside. If you can identify these 3 words, then the rest of the relationship should be very simple or a lot easier to understand. So, quick recap. Same side means that we're going to look at the transversal, and we're looking at the angles that are on the same side. So all the angles to the left of the blue line or all the angles to the right of the blue line. That means that they're on the same side. Inside, now we're looking at the other 2 lines as reference. There are 4 angles that are inside these 2 lines, and those are here on the inside, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are inside the 2 lines. And then we have outside angles or exterior angles, and those are the green angles that I circled. Those are the ones on the outside of the picture. So 1 and 2 and 7 and 8. Those are on the outside of the 2 lines. So we're going to use these 3 keywords to reference all the other ones, and if we understand these 3 keywords, we should be in a good place. Let's start with alternate interior angles. Now, I'm going to start by using these words and giving it an alternative meaning. So alternate, another word for alternate would be opposite. So I'm going to write under here, opposite. And another word for interior, I'm going to say inside. Right? Interior is inside. Alternate means opposite. So now I'm going to put these two words together, and I'm going to identify which angles are on the inside and opposite sides of the transversal. So inside, I'm going to do this in, I'll do it in here in black. I'm going to look at these 2 lines. Which angles are inside these 2 lines? Well, I have 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are inside of each other. Alternate or opposite means that they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So angles like, if they're on opposite sides, I'm dealing with 3 and 5. Those are on opposite sides. And they're still inside these two lines. Another example could be maybe 6 and 4. They're on opposite sides and they're still within. So when you're talking about an alternate interior angle, you're saying angles 3 and 5 are alternate interior, or angles 4 and 6. That's all we're really doing. We're identifying which angles are this relationship. In this relationship, we have alternate exterior. So again, I'm going to think about the words. Alternate means opposite, opposite side. Exterior is another word for outside. And I'm going to identify which angles I'm dealing with. So I'm looking at my two lines as my reference. Angles on the outside are angles like 1, 2, 7, and 8. Those are angles outside the two lines. Now, if they're opposite, now we're dealing with opposite sides. So let's choose an angle. Let's say that we have angle 7. 7 is on the outside. Which angle is on the opposite side and on the outside of this transversal? Angle 1. Notice how 1 and 7 are both outside the two lines, and they are on opposite sides of the blue line, the transversal. We also have another example here. We can also use angle 8. Angle 8 and angle 2. Those are on the outside and opposite of each other. So angle 1 and angle 7, or angle 2 and angle 8. Let's look at this next vocabulary word. We have consecutive interior. Now consecutive is going to be the same way or same thing as saying same side. Interior means inside. So I'm looking at angles that are on the same side of the transversal and inside both lines. So I start with the blue lines. I start with the two lines that are being intersected. I'm looking for the angles inside. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all inside these two lines. Now, which angles are on the same side of the transversal? Well, if I'm looking at 3, 4, 5, and 6, 3 and 6 are on the same side of this blue line, the transversal. That's one example. Or 4 and 5 are also on the same side. And those are my examples. Angle 4 and angle 5 are consecutive interior angles, or angle 3 and angle 6 are same side interior angles. Those are different ways of saying that. Very similarly, consecutive exterior, now instead of dealing with angles that are on the inside, we're dealing with angles that are on the outside. So, just like the previous example, right, this right here means same side. So I'm looking at the blue line as a reference. Which angles are on the same side, but also on the outside? Okay, so I'm looking at the transversal. They have to be on the same side of the transversal. So angles like 1, 4, 5, and 8 are on the same side. They're all on the left. Now, which angles of those 4 angles, which ones are on the outside? On the outside, we have 1. We have 1 and we have 8. They're on the same side of the transversal, and they're both on the outside of the two lines. Very similarly, we can do it with angle 2, and you guessed it, angle 7. They're both on the outside and on the same side of the transversal. So angle 1 and angle 8, or you could say angle 2 and angle 7. So far, the words have been telling us what we can use. If we know what exterior means, or interior, or same side, or alternate, which is opposite, then we can use those keywords to identify what the relationship is. For this last example, corresponding angles is the only one that does not tell us this relationship based on the name. So what I'm going to say for corresponding angles, I'm going to call this same side, same side. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. So when I think of corresponding angles, I'm thinking about same side, same side. So the first thing I want to look at is the transversal. The transversal will tell me which ones are on the same side. So 1, 4, 5, and 8 are all on the left. Those are on the same side. 2, 3, 6, and 7 are all on the right. Those are on the same side. Now, that checks off the first check. Do I know when they're on the same side of the transversal, left or right? Check. The second same side means referring to the lines, the other two lines. And I'm going to color these in green just so I can make them stand out a little bit. Let's pick a side, the left side of the line. So we're looking at 1, 4, 5, and 8. Now we're going to choose another side. When you're looking at these two green lines, you're going to pick lines that are both, angles that are both above or they're both below. They have to be on the same side. If I look at line L and line M, I'm going to start with angles that are above. So 1 is above line L and M is above line L. This is what we call corresponding angles. They're on the same side of the line, of the transversal, the blue line, and then they're both on the same side of the two lines. So they're both on the left, and then they're both above. They're same side, same side. So here my example would be angle 1 and angle 5. Now there's a lot of examples here that are same side, same side. If I choose the ones above the two lines, I can also choose two that are below the lines. So 4 and 8 are also corresponding because they're both on the left and they're both below. They're on the same side of the transversal and on the same side of both lines, on the bottom of both lines. Now this is just the angles on the left. Could you identify the angles on the right? Okay, I'm just going to color code these. I'm not going to write them, but I'm going to color code them so you can see. If I choose on the right above, I got to choose on the right above as well. These are corresponding angles. And then the only ones that I did not shade are the ones left over. 3 is on the right and below, and 7 is on the right and below. Same side, same side. Okay, so these are the keywords that we're talking about. Consecutive means same side of the transversal, so same side of the blue line. Interior means inside the two lines, and exterior means outside the two lines. If you can pay attention or identify what these words mean, the only one that I did not here are alternate, which means opposite sides. Okay, then you can identify what the keyword is for any relationship. Okay, so like as an example, if I'm looking at 1 and 7, they're on opposite sides, right, of the blue line. So this is I'm already thinking alternative, or alternate, sorry, or opposite, right? And then they're both on the outside of the two lines. So alternate, exterior. They're on opposite sides and they're on the outside. All right, well, let's do another little bit of a challenge here and do some review with a more complex situation. Like here, now we have a ton of lines and a whole lot of things to look at, okay? Once you identify the relationships and you know how to identify them, let's look at something more complex, like angle 2 and angle 7. So I'm going to first highlight these two angles and see what I'm working with. Angle 2 and angle 10, sorry. Notice how I am not looking at anything on the right side. I'm going to cancel this stuff. I'm just going to forget that it even exists. These angles aren't even existing. We're not even touching them. So I'm going to ignore them from my picture. Now I can focus on these two lines and see how it becomes a little simpler. 2 and 10 are both on the right side of N, the transversal, and they're both above the two lines. So this is same side, or corresponding angles. Nine and 13. Well, let's erase some stuff here that we're not using. Now 13 comes into the picture. So I have 9 and 13. Now I'm not using this other these angles on the top. I'm just going to make my life easier and forget that they exist. You can cover it with your pencil, you can cover it with your hand, and I'll just look at these two other angles. Notice how 9 and 13 are both above line M. So they're on the same side already. And they're both on the left of the other two lines. So same side, same side. So here's another example of corresponding. Finally, we have angle 3 and angle 10. Let's delete some stuff that we're not using. So angle 3 and angle 10. 3 and 10. I am not using anything on the right-hand side, so I'm going to scratch this off as if it doesn't exist. Now you can just cover this with your hand, as I'm saying, right? That way you don't get bothered by any extra angles. And now we can just look at them. Notice how 3 and 10 are both on the same side. So they're both on the same side of this transversal. And they're both inside. So same side, inside. That is consecutive interior angles. Consecutive means same side. And since 3 and 10 are both inside the two lines, L and M, right, if we look at these two lines, 3 and 10 are inside the two lines, so consecutive interior. Feel free to rewind, go back, look at the angles, take notes. At first, you might have to look at your notes in your foldable to keep up with these examples, but the more you use them, the more you identify these keywords like consecutive and alternate and same side and opposite, and these keywords will tell you where the angles relate to each other. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you haven't liked and subscribed, go ahead and do that right now. And as always, we'll calculate later.